This right here permanently changed the landscape of an entire genre. Until John Wick hit the big screen, action sequences were going in one of two directions. They were either overly stylized to the point of being sometimes ridiculous, or gritty and realistic to the point of them being almost confusing to watch. John Wick was able to capture stylized action sequences and blend the artistic flow of them with the same realistic grittiness present in modern action films, in a way that made both of those things feel simultaneously reasonable. When mutually exclusive, they sometimes did not. The end result is a beautiful dance that still feels like a brutal, ugly fight, but walks a line that filmmakers are continuing to try to walk with marginal success. See, what John Wick is action films distilled to their purest form. Forgoing complex narrative in favor of more intricate and impressive fight sequences is a large part of what makes this franchise what it is. An easy-to-follow narrative that allows its viewers to be able to sit back, relax, and enjoy the mayhem, as John Wick utilizes its unique hybrid of martial arts and gunplay, means it shifts the focus away from what a lot of modern action movies have attempted to do, which is drown us in the most convoluted narrative imaginable. And that's important, because this hybrid style of martial arts, in which every move is seemingly punctuated with a fatal gunshot, is easily identifiable as gun fu. And previous to this, it was kind of rare in film. Audiences hadn't seen much like it, and that's largely because this particular blend of military tactics and various forms of hand-to-hand didn't really exist. Well, gun fu did, but it didn't look like this. Now, you might be thinking I'm crazy, but before John Wick became a critical and box office success, all of this wasn't there. Hollywood did what Hollywood does best after Wick, which is start to churn out stylized imitations of a proven success, in hopes of cashing in on the trends set by, well, box office hits. Well, you could make the argument that some of these films turn out to be pretty enjoyable, things like this here. None of them can seem to get close to recreating the intensity, style, and impact of, well, this. And we chalk this up to three things: vision, talent, and passion, and we'll split them up. Let's start off with vision. And the foundation of that, well, starts back at that martial arts. Gun fu, again, was not necessarily a new concept when John Wick rolled around. In fact, gun fu was first introduced to audiences around '86 when critically acclaimed action director John Woo released a film titled A Better Tomorrow. That film would not only launch John Woo's career, but also the career of martial arts superstar Chow Yun-fat. The blend of choreographed gunplay and hand-to-hand was a hit, and it slowly started making its way into the mainstream. Audiences wanted more stylized violence, and more they got. John Woo went on to direct some big-budget 90s classics like Broken Arrow and Face Off. In '99, however, The Matrix exploded into theaters and showed us that audiences wanted even more than just what John Woo was giving them. They also craved world building, or what was and often still is the trend, science fiction. Now, John Wick doesn't quite do that, but it does the former very well. John Wick's world building is as patient as it is expansive. Writer Derek Kolstad takes his time introducing the audience to the expansive universe of Wick and the Continental. The film's director wasn't alone in his direction. Deadpool 2's director, although uncredited, was also heavily involved in helming John Wick. And these two draw us in moment to moment with carefully measured pacing, which is important to engrossing an audience into what's on screen. And they do this through show, don't tell, which you've heard me talk about before. Show don't tell is the concept of highlighting important elements of your story without explaining the importance through exhaustive dialogue or needless exposition. Think about your day-to-day activities. How often do you explicitly talk about the thing you're doing while you're doing it, and why that thing is so important to your daily life? You don't, and neither would anyone else, including the characters we see on screen. So dialogue that over-explains important plot elements usually feels unrealistic and pulls us out of our immersion into that story, because we can see through the facade of creating a reason for that character to have something explained to them that, well, usually should be obvious to that particular character. You've seen it a million times, the "tell me again how this works" moment, or the "remind me why we're here" moment.
Why are we here?
It's where a less creative director might beat his audience over the head with those words, those questions, those explanations. Kolstad, Stahelski choose to show us various intriguing elements central to the plot in the world of John Wick without ever pandering to the world or its audience. They respect you and I enough to allow us the opportunity to put the pieces together ourselves. John digging up his guns, the cop just seeing dead bodies and just asking Wick if he's working again.
You, working again?
No, just sorting some stuff out.
or even just the way they choose to show us the mysterious currency from the Continental. These elements are presented in a way that gives them importance and meaning without wasting our time, and importantly, breaking up the pacing of what is an eccentric and very kinetic film. And so now let's talk about the second element, talent. Jonathan Eusebio. I can almost guarantee that you are familiar with his work. He has choreographed fight scenes for Doctor Strange, Deadpool, The Bourne Ultimatum, and also the ridiculous news anchor fight scene in Anchorman 2. Before he was coordinating fights, he was working as a stunt performer in films like 300, We Were Soldiers, and Blade. To add a little synchronicity to this, he actually worked with John Woo as a stunt performer in the 2002 military film Windtalkers. He trained with Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's training partner and is rapidly earning his status as the top fight choreographer in Hollywood. Point is, this man has an extensive background of stunt work in not only high-level martial arts, but also military tactics. And he was able to bring all of those elements and his talent together in John Wick by combining jiu-jitsu, judo, jeet kune do with tactical three-gun combat. This hybrid style of gunplay and mixed martial arts present that we've spoken about looks like a dance to the audience, and that is almost exclusively thanks to this man. But it needs direction, lighting, and style. Eusebio is like asking LeBron to dunk to save your life. You give the ball to the right guy, and they just might keep you alive. And that's kind of what happened in John Wick. It's largely due to the fact that before Stahelski went to direct John Wick, him and David Leitch were, you guessed it, stunt performers and fight coordinators. Stahelski was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in The Matrix and The Replacements, but again, also served as fight choreographer for 300, Rambo, Live Free or Die Hard, and Wolverine. His counterpart was a stunt performer in The Matrix and coordinated fight sequences for films like The Mechanic and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So when you take directors and a choreographer that has this resume and this background, top-tier stunt performers, top-tier fight coordinators, and you get them communicating, you have people that know where to point the camera and know the right time to do so. There's no gap in between the stunt department and the camera department as they become one and the same. And finally, let's talk a little bit about passion. You can't really talk about that without talking about Keanu Reeves, as he too is essentially another stunt performer here. During the filming of The Matrix, Keanu trained extensively in BJJ and Krav Maga. For John Wick, he continued that training while also adding some tactical military courses to boot. Keanu's passion for martial arts and combat training allowed for him to perform his own stunts, and having a lead actor who is capable of performing his own stunt work leads to the ability to create action sequences without the need of constant cutaways, or awkward angles designed to deceive, or even worse, horrible CG. It enhances the directorial capacity to create the flow and rhythm that we see in these fight sequences and keep them feeling unique while immersive, which is the most important word for John Wick's fight choreography and the directing in this film. For example, this fence jumping sequence from Taken, where the editors apparently needed to make 17 cuts in 7 seconds, does not do a good job of making you feel like you're in that moment. And despite quick cuts being somewhat of a trend in action films, to viewers that style of filmmaking can be jarring and remove you and confuse you from what's happening. Whereas Wick is about holding the camera on what's happening, being minimalistic in the editing room, and being far enough removed from what's happening for you to understand what you're seeing, while also keeping you there long enough to decipher the language of what's on screen. These elements, when combined, create this concoction of success that we hadn't seen in action films in a long time. Which is ironic because John Wick was essentially meant to be a B-movie. Keanu Reeves' career had led him to that very reality, and yet here we are. And while other studios will try time and time again to emulate breakthrough films like this in an attempt at making money, there is a magic to certain films like this. There's a magic to their circumstances, there's a magic to what they become. And John Wick, well, it's magical. You can emulate style, direction, lighting, storytelling, and choreography to a mixed level of success, but that vision, that talent, that passion simply can't be built. It's either there or it isn't. All of this is to say that the most important element of filmmaking, the most important element of any art at all, happens before anybody even sees it. It's about putting yourself, putting your team, putting the people around you in the right situation. Surrounding yourself with the right people before you get into that situation. Because only then can you truly express yourself on a scale beyond, well, what you can produce in your bedroom. Filmmaking is a team sport. And like any sport, the best team always has the best chance of winning. Well guys, that's it for today's episode of Nerdstalgic. If you enjoyed this one, press the like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, also hit subscribe. That way you don't miss anything. On your screen right now, you know the drill. 2 more, click on those, stay here. Until next time, guys.